Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the Routledge History of Literature in English, part 55. So let's dive in the world of literature. Today we'll be covering from modern poetry to 1945, in which we will be covering till later Thomas Hardy. So let's get started. By W.B. Yeats in the poem The Second Coming, and the line is, "Things fall apart, the center cannot hold." And a very well known writer has written a novel with this name. Do mention the name of the author in the comment section below. Queen Victoria died in 1901, but most of the certainties of the Victorian age had disappeared long before. Above all, poetry was not statement or felt sensation but art. In 1899, Arthur Symons, one of the poetic aesthetes of the 1890s, published his study The Symbolist Movement in Poetry, which would have great influence on the modern poets like W.B. Yeats and T.S. Eliot. W.B. Yeats himself quickly drew the lesson that we must purify poetry, which was to continue through movements like Imagism and Vorticism up to the outbreak of the Great War in 1914, the period when the modern movement in poetry was formed. Modern poetry contains language that is closer to the idioms of everyday speech and to a more diverse range of the subject matter. Instead of a single unified poetic diction, different styles coexist more frequently. This is first noticeable in Hopkins and Hardy and continues through Eliot and Auden to Larkin and more recently to Tony Harrison, Simon Armitage and Benjamin Zephaniah. Now comes Thomas Hardy. His novels, written between 1870 and 1895, made him not only the recorder of his distinctive region of Wessex, but the explorer of the transition of lives and minds from the age of traditional values and religious certainties to the age of godlessness and modern tragedy, a transition sometimes described as the clash of the modern. After the hostile reception of his tragic and bitter novel Jude the Obscure in 1895, he devoted himself largely to poetry and poetic drama until his death in 1928. In 1898, he published his Wessex poems, verse that he had written over the previous 30 years. His poems are largely traditional in theme, form, and structure, and show a continuity with the Wordsworthian art of recording the impact of ordinary daily events on an individual and sensitive mind. He wrote the poem During Wind and Rain in 1917. A sudden sense of death and impermanence pervades pastoral moments of domestic happiness. Then he also wrote a macabre, humorous poem, and the name is Ah, Are You Digging My Grave in 1914. On the last day of the old century, 31st December 1900, Hardy wrote what is perhaps his most famous poem, The Darkling Thrush. And he has also written the poem Oxen, and do read the poem because the whole poem is given in the book. Then he has also written the poem After a Journey. Then he has also written 8 volumes of poems Satires of Circumstance in 1912. A. Housman's volume A Shropshire Lad was first published privately in 1896, became one of the best-selling and best-loved books of poetry of the 20th century. In 1922, the year of publication of several of the most influential modern texts, Housman's last poems were also published and again were very popular. More poems followed in 1936 and Housman's reputation has continued to flourish. If you have any doubts or query, you can ask me in the comment section below, or you can even message me in the social media IDs that are given below in the description box. And do share the video to all those who wants to be the part of this literary journey. And do read the lines of the poems given in the book. So that's all for today's video. Thank you and signing out.